Hey, hey, hey. So, welcome to this live presentation about the coronavirus legislation, stimulus checks, all that good stuff. I know I've been getting so many questions about this topic. So, I'm like, let me go ahead and do a whole presentation on it. I don't want to waste any time. Let's just go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the chat. If you're live in Zoom, drop it in the chat. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and drop it in the comments. And after everything is over, I will go back and look at those questions and see if I can answer them. So let's go ahead and get started. So this webinar is called I Have My Stimulus Check, Now What? Because that just seems to be the question now, right? So people are like, first of all, what is the stimulus check? What do I do with it? Some people have already spent it all. I know a few. But I just wanted to go ahead and try to catch you before you start spending anything so I can give you some things to spend it on that would be smart. So, there we go. So, about your presenter. So, my name is Tiffany Grant. I run Money Talk with Tiff. If you don't know me, you can find me moneytalkwitht.com. I was a homeowner at 26. I'm now 29. So 3 years. Actually, this month was my 3-year anniversary, which is awesome. I've paid off over $50,000 in debt so far. I still have about 50,000 left to go, and my goal is to be debt free by 30. So please, I need all prayers and vibrations this way. I have my bachelor and master's degree in business. I'm a blogger, podcaster, and educator, and I am a millennial mom. So let's just hop right in. I just wanted to go over the legislation and the updates as far as the coronavirus is concerned when it comes to your money. So the main piece of legislation I want to talk about, which is where these stimulus checks come from, is the March 27th, 2020 CARES Act, and that stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security. It was signed into law by President Trump on that date. And so I just wanted to give you a few highlights of, bullet points of some important legislation in there that can affect you and your money. So first and foremost, for businesses, okay? So we're talking about all of everybody from big businesses to small mom and pop. So this is what was included for them. So $500 billion was allocated to the Economic Stabilization Fund for businesses. These were for the bigger businesses because the minimum loan amount was $1 million. It was for businesses that have less than 10,000 employees and then some other stipulations in there. But this is what was for the bigger companies. Then there was $349 billion allocated to the Paycheck Protection Program. That one was intended for small businesses, but as we have seen lately, especially in my Let's Talk Money group, I've been posting a lot of articles about this. It was used by bigger publicly funded companies pretty much to pad their pockets, because if you're publicly traded, you probably didn't really need this. Yes, you may have taken a hit, but not as much as the small businesses in our community. And that's what this was intended for. So the government, I just read an article today that they are forcing those bigger companies to give the money back. So that way they can reallocate it to whomever they wanted to allocate it to in the first place. It's really sad that businesses took advantage of this. I mean, one of them was Shake Shack, but they went ahead and gave it back without the government telling them to. Ruth's Chris, they didn't want to give it back, but they finally did after a lot of social media backlash on it. So, it kind of shows you what businesses are willing to take advantage of the situation. And, I've seen some people say, well, I'm not buying from these businesses anymore, even after this. That's completely up to you. But do realize that there were hundreds of publicly traded companies that took advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program, and they weren't supposed to. Now, granted, when they wrote the law, they wrote it with loopholes, and that's how they were able to do it. But for them to take advantage of it, I just do not agree with it. But anyway, I get off my soapbox now. So the CARES Act also expanded EDL funds, and EDL stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loans. And that is for nonprofits and faith based organizations. So if you see the term EDL or EIDL passed around, that's what that is. There are various tax credits and deductions for businesses as well that are a result of this act. Now, let's get into the good part. So, for individuals, which is what we're here for, so individuals now can get a tax credit for up to $300 of charitable cash donations this year without itemizing. Now that's big because usually in order to get a deduction for charitable contributions, you have to itemize. They opened it up so even if you do the standard deduction, which most people do now with the new tax laws, you can still get that tax credit. So that's awesome. Um, Unemployment benefits have been expanded. If you've been keeping up with the news, you know that a lot of people have been filing for unemployment. And it's a really sad time, but at the same time, it's a good thing that they were able to expand the benefits. So, what that means is they are promising an additional $600 a week on top of whatever the amount is that you're eligible for based on, your previous pay through the state. So, they use a formula, and this I'm putting my HR hat on temporarily. I'm gonna take it off in a minute, but they use a formula where they calculate how much you're eligible for under normal circumstances. So we're talking about normal unemployment, um, based on how much you were paid before you were unemployed. So what they're saying here is that the government, so the federal government, is giving you an additional $600 on top of what you qualify state level wise. And that's supposed to be coming out. Now, I have heard stories that that additional 600 a week is very delayed, which I can definitely understand. If there's millions of people filing for unemployment, they have a lot of work to do. So you can't really blame them, but hopefully they can get those out as soon as possible. Another big development when it comes to unemployment is that gig and freelance workers, that's me, are included for the first time ever. Usually you have to work for somebody in order to get unemployment benefits, which is why when you go, if you've never filed an unemployment claim, when you file, you have to give a reason why, and then the employer can refute that if they so choose. In my HR career, I spent a lot of time fighting unemployment cases, but that's what happens on the back end. So now, for the first time ever, gig and freelance workers are able to file for unemployment benefits because they are affected too. It's not just people that work for people. I know personally, I have been affected because a lot of my in-person events were canceled, paid speaking engagements, things like that. But here we are, making the best of it, still educating, still wanting to get this money talk out there. So that's good news for people that are freelance workers and gig workers. This is continuing with the individuals. So $14 billion was allocated to a higher education emergency relief fund. And those funds were distributed to colleges, but the colleges determine who gets that funding, what students are eligible, what type of criteria they're going to use is all up to the college. Also, I have seen that colleges are asking for public donations for these higher education emergency relief funds. So I know A&T has one, and I think Bennett has one, and all these local colleges, UNCG has one. So if you are straight, you are still working, you still have money, and we'll get into this later, you can give to your alma mater if that's what's important to you and help these college students that are stuck on campus or were stuck on campus or don't have anywhere to go or things like that. Help them out. So speaking of college students that were in a federal work study program can still get paid even if they are unable to fulfill their assignment. So that's good. If there was a college student that was already part of a work study program for this school year, they will still get paid for this time, even though the colleges are closed. So that's great. Um, the government suspended payments and accrual of interest on federal student loans through September 30th, 2020. Oh my gosh, if I had the money right now, if I had the money right now to pay off all my student loans, I would, because this has never happened in the history of federal student loans. So, unfortunately, it's a horrible event which caused it, but this is excellent. If you have student loans right now, your payments are suspended and the interest is not accruing. So anything you put towards those student loans are going straight to the principal. It's going straight to what they're taxing you on when it comes to interest. So definitely get that knocked down if you can. And I'll talk more about that later. It also suspends garnishments and tax refund interceptions for federal student loans until September 30th, 2020. So if you are one of those people who were in default with your student loans and they were coming for your paycheck is safe right now. If you are one of those people that were in default and they were taking your refund checks, your refund check is safe right now. So if you have not filed your 2019 taxes, now would be the time, because they are not able to take your check. Now, after September 30th, 2020, that's that, unless they decide to increase that time. But as of right now, I highly recommend that you go ahead and file those taxes, and hopefully you can get your check before September 30th, 2020. And that way, you can keep that and they won't take it. Also, I'm gonna skip down a little bit because I'm on the subject of taxes, but taxes aren't due until July 15th. So typically every year, your taxes are due by April 15th. For you to file. They have pushed that to July 15th, so you won't have any penalties or anything up until that time if you file late. So if you are one of those people that typically owe taxes, you do not have to file yet. You can hold off a little bit longer. You can file July 15th, and then that's when your tax payments are due as well. RMDs, so those are required minimum distributions. This only applies for people who are 70 and a half and older. Once you get up to that age, the government makes you withdraw money from your IRAs. For this year, they are allowing people to not have to do that, and not penalizing them for that, which is great because the stock market is in a decline. And if you are 70 and a half and older and you are having to do those RMDs, you do not want to do those RMDs while the market's down, because essentially you bought high and now you're selling low. So that's not really what you want to do. So it's a good thing that the government thought about that and allowed people to suspend those RMDs until next year. Um, the 10% early withdrawal penalty for early distributions from IRAs, so individual retirement accounts, are waived for certain circumstances. So the circumstances are surrounding COVID-19. So if you were diagnosed or somebody in your family that you're caring for was diagnosed, you can take money out of your IRA without the 10% early withdrawal penalty. That is great for certain circumstances. Now, mind you, it's still subject to income tax. And when I'm talking about the 10% early withdrawal penalty, this is for traditional IRAs, okay? So with Roth IRAs, and might be a whole nother different webinar. I wrote articles on this, but with Roth IRAs, they are a little more flexible when it comes to the early withdrawal penalty and distributions and being penalized for that. With traditional IRAs, it's usually you will get charged that. So now they're allowing people to take money out even if they're not old enough to yet. So that's good news. The maximum amount of 401k loans has increased. So now you can get a loan from your 401k of up to 100% of vested assets. It was 50%. And now I will say this depends on the company. Let me put my HR hat back on. So depending on how they have their plans set up, um, dip, dictates whether you can take loans or not. I've worked at companies where they allowed loans. I worked at companies where they did not. So if you are unsure, please get with your HR department at your work and see if you can get a loan if it's needed. If it's needed, because mind you, loans, it's a loan. You have to pay it back. So if it's needed and you are really on dire needs, dire circumstances, get with your HR department and see if that's an option for you. If it is, you can now get a loan of up to 100%. Um, Creditors that allow flexibility with payment due to COVID-19 have to report to the credit bureaus, and bureaus is spelled incorrectly, I'm sorry, that the individual is in compliance. So they can't make a deal with you and then turn around and say, oh, no, they didn't pay us what they were supposed to. No, they have to, as part of this act, report that you are in good standing with your payment if they make a deal with you during this time. So keep that in mind. The ball is in your court, and I'll get into that as well. But definitely know your rights and know what the options that you have, and that is one of them. So, what everybody wants to know, what is a stimulus check? So, part of the CARES Act includes the payment of stimulus checks, and I saved this for last because I wanted to get a little more in depth with it. So, under normal circumstances, a stimulus check is to stimulate the economy. That's where the term stimulus check comes from. So, in times where I've seen this before, in like the 2008 2009 crisis, there were stimulus checks sent out. Right now, there are stimulus checks sent out. The difference and the issue with this one is that it's going to be hard to stimulate the economy if we can't go outside and we can't frequent businesses, because the whole purpose of stimulus checks are to infuse cash into the hands of Americans so they can therefore take that cash and spend it, right? So this go round, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to stimulate the economy this way, only because we have so many restrictions. You know, Walmart's closing at 8 o'clock. No, but let me stop. But but it's so many restrictions right now, so it's going to be harder to stimulate the economy under these circumstances. Amazon will probably get more money because a lot of people have been ordering online, including myself. But that's neither here nor there. So these payments are not considered taxable income. This is important because some people had concerns that this would raise their tax bracket. Some people are right on the cusp of a tax bracket and they're like, hey, if I get these payments, is that going to take me up to the next tax bracket? No, it's not. These are not taxable income. So what they came up with was it was going to be $2,400 to each married couple filing jointly, or $1,200 to each individual, and $500 for each dependent who is a qualifying child under the age of 17 as of December 31st, 2020. Payment amounts. So before I go any further, let's do the math on this, right? So let's say we have, let's say we have a married couple filing jointly with two dependents. If that's the case, they would they would get $3,400. I should have bought my water. They would get $3,400 in a stimulus check payment. Now, payment amounts are reduced for each married couple filing jointly whose adjusted gross income, sorry guys, is above $150,000. They are doing reduced stimulus checks. So I've had people concerned, if I make over this amount, will I not get one? Well, the answer is you will. It will just be reduced based on your income. There's no need to pay these stimulus checks back. Like I said, it's not taxable income. Eligibility is determined by your income tax return from 2019 or from 2018 if you haven't filed 2019 yet. If you didn't file 2018 or 2019, I need you to do so. But nevertheless, you can still get your check. And I have a link at the end of this presentation that you can use to do that. So what can you do with your stimulus check? So first and foremost, please, if you have never budgeted before, now is the time to budget. What you don't want to happen is you get this check, you are like, "Ooh, free money," and you just start going like this, um, because it'll be gone. Um, Mind you, this is a one-time payment. This is not a weekly, monthly, quarterly. This is a one-time payment. So you need to make sure that you are using it very intelligently. If you are a person who got laid off or your hours were cut, use it as income. But like that goes back to budgeting as well, because if you are going to use this as income, it could potentially, depending on where you live, hold you over for a month or two. Okay. But with that, you need to budget and make sure you're only spending for the bare necessities. So that way you can make it last. If you are straight, you're an essential worker, you still have your same amount of hours or things are good, then use this money to build up your emergency fund. Your emergency fund, people. Before this happened, I have heard stories that people got laid off and only had $75 saved. $75 saved. They didn't see this coming. Nobody saw this coming. You do not want to be that. You do not want that to happen to you. So if you got a big stimulus check, put in your emergency fund. Act like it never even existed. Just sweep it on over. Because at the end of the day, we don't know how long this is going to last. I made a post today in the Let's Talk Money group that yes, we are in a recession. It is confirmed. So we don't know how long this is going to last. And the effects of the economy and businesses being shut down for an extended period of time can last for years. Okay. So please, please, please build up your emergency fund. It's very important right now. If you have nothing, try to get it to 3 months. If you have 3 months, try to get it to 6 months. If you have 6 months, try to get it to 9, 12 months if you already have your debt paid off. This is so important, and I cannot stress it enough. Another thing you can do, like I hinted at earlier, call the creditors. Right now is the perfect time. You don't have nothing else to do. You might as well start focus on your credit. What else are you gonna be doing? You at home? We quarantined. Where we going? Go ahead and pick up the phone, call the creditors, and try to work out some things. If you've never pulled your credit report before, your official one, not Credit Karma, but your official credit report, now's the time to do it. Because what I will tell you is after this is all said and done, there are going to be deals. If you are looking for a house, wait, there's going to be deals after this. Fortunately, but unfortunately, people are going to lose their houses. They're going to lose their cars. They're going to be desperate to get rid of houses, desperate to get rid of cars. So if those are goals that you are interested in pursuing, now is the time to get your credit together and save money because it's time. It's about to be time. And I say that, I know it sounds horrible, but it's just real. It's the law of economics. It's an ebb and flow all the time. And so I'm telling people to use this time to build your credit, build your emergency fund, build your savings, build up for these goals that you have. Because right now, a lot of people are able to save money because they don't have to go out. They're not going to these stores spending money because they're closed. So a lot of people right now, their only expense is food, or their main expense is food. And there are ways to knock that down. I have articles and giveaways about that. But now is the time to stack. It's stacking season, y'all. Make the most of it. All right. So outside of that, keep investing if you have been already. So if you are putting into your 401k, keep doing it. If you have been investing already before this happened, keep doing it, because at the end of the day, it's sales. Right now, everything is going so low. And the thing about the market is it always comes back up regardless. So even with the 2008, 2009 crisis, it went down. Guess what? We were above that just last year. So definitely take advantage of the sales on stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs that's going on right now. If you can, if you can. Pay down debt. So keep investing if you have. If you haven't been investing, now it's better for you to put your money to pay down debt than it is to put into the market. So let me explain. Right now, even safe investments, so safe, like bonds, right? So treasury bonds are generally the safest asset you can put your money into right now. Those aren't really paying anything. Last I checked, it was like 0.25, 0.75% or something like that. Hardly anything. So if you put your money towards, let's say, a 27% interest rate on a credit card, you're getting more bang for your buck for that same dollar than you would in any investment right now, in this moment. We're not talking about years down the road. We're not talking about that. We're talking about right now. Right now, it's better for you to go ahead and start paying off debt, especially credit cards, because those are the highest interest rates, but also student loans, because, like I said earlier, this is unprecedented. Everything is going to your principal. I wish I had it, y'all. I wish I had it right now, because I would drop everything on my student loans. So anyway, another thing you can do with it is start a business. Start a business. I have a friend. She started her business with, I think she said $1,000. Now it makes six figures. So maybe there's something that you've always wanted to do. You never found the time. You didn't have the money. This, that, or the other. Now is the time. You have all the time in the world. You now have the stimulus check you can pour towards it. Make it happen, y'all. Because as I've said before, entrepreneurship is the biggest wealth building tool in America. We are a capitalist economy. So the people that are out to get it, building businesses and stuff, those are the ones that make it. So I highly recommend, and after working with, these next door millionaires and things like that, most of them had businesses and that's how they made their money. So I am a firm believer and an advocate for building businesses and starting businesses and following what your heart desires. Now, I will say, caveat, within reason, okay? Make sure you do your research. Make sure you understand your market. Make sure there is a market for what you have to offer. But if there is, you've done your research, you've been sitting on this idea for some time, and you have your emergency fund, you have no more debt, you don't have any creditors, you're already investing, use that money to start a business. And see, what's going to happen is when this is all over, it's going to show who was being intentional during this time, not just in money, but in life, in relationships, in pretty much everything. It's going to show after this. So make sure that you are setting yourself up in all of these areas to come out on top. So that's my spiel on owning businesses. Do it if you can. Maybe you might think about a down payment for a refinance. So since the market is tanking, interest rates are also tanking. Well, they were already going down before this happened, but now they're extremely low. So right now is a good time if you are already in a mortgage and your interest rate is like 8 or 9% or something outrageous. It might be time for you to refinance, because last time I checked, the interest rates for mortgages was at like 3.75%. And that is a far cry from what it was just a few years ago. So if you are in a situation where all of the above is taken care of, and you have this stimulus check and you don't know what to do, and your interest rate on your mortgage is high, it might be time for refinance. It might be time. So go ahead and do that. Now, caveat with that, I will say I do not recommend people refinance if it's going to be less than a 1% decrease in their interest rate, because then there's really no point. So only refinance if it's a significant cost savings. And then last but not least, give. You can give at least $300 this year and get a tax deduction for it. So give. There are people in the community that need help right now. Food insecurity is real. Housing insecurity is real. And you watching me right now shows that you are blessed, because some people can't even do this. So definitely give to your community. All throughout this, I've still been giving my time, money, energy, everything to the community, because what you pour out will always come back to you. Now, don't do it for that, but just realize that's how the universe works. That's how the world works. So please, if you have the ability to give, make it happen. Um, one thing I didn't mention food stamps. So if people are getting food stamps, or if you are newly getting food stamps, if you had food stamps in, I think it was, let me see, February and March, or March and April, one of the two, they are giving full benefit. So they're not deducting for how much you make. So they were giving people the full benefit. So take advantage of these resources around the community. If you are somebody that's insecure when it comes to food, there are plenty of resources around that can help you. Please reach out to me. I have a full list of different resources around the Greensboro triad area that can help with these things. Please let me know, because there are people out there and places out there that are doing the work. So that's my spiel. Let me move on. So I'm going to wrap it up. If you feel like you need personal one-to-one help, I am now doing one-to-one coaching. Let's chat. That's the link where you can do a 15-minute consultation. Usually those consultations are longer than 15 minutes, but because I get so passionate talking about this stuff, it's hard to cut it off, as you can see. So if you need help, let's chat. If you filed your 2018 and or 2019 taxes, but the bank account that you use to get your tax refund is closed, or your address is different, or anything that will interfere with you getting your check, you can go to this website right here, irs.gov/coronavirus/get my payment. And you can fill out a form where you can update that information so they know where to put the money. If you didn't file 2018 or 2019, like I said, you can still get your check. All you have to do is go to irs.gov/coronavirus/non-filers, enter payment info here. And it's just going to ask for your social security number and your bank account information, and your address and all of that relevant information so they can get your payment sent out. Please only use irs.gov. Do not fall for any scams, because there are a lot of scams already out here for these stimulus checks, and it's crazy. But anytime there's something, there's always going to be somebody else trying to get over. We all know it. So please, please, please be aware. Please be aware of people trying to get your money, because everybody knows that these stimulus checks are out. So I've seen a big increase in, people trying to sell stuff, and, sliding in the inbox and all over the place. So just be on your P's and Q's, do your own research. And if you have any questions, like I said, please ask me. I'm in your corner. I do not like seeing people getting taken advantage of. If you want to run an idea by me, please do. Please do. Even if I'm not in your immediate circle, just please, you have somebody that you can sound off to. So please. um, Also, if you don't have a bank account to receive your payment, I highly recommend going ahead and opening one for this, if only for this purpose, because it's going to take a long time to get these paper checks. They have to cut millions, and it's just a lot easier if you just go ahead and open up a quick little bank account, enter the information on that irs.gov page, and then get your check that way. It's just much easier. So I put a link here where it has a list of different affordable banking options. So if you don't have a checking account, it lists some options there, and it's a good website and it's reputable. So definitely take a look there. So that's all I have for you all. That's the end of my presentation. I'm going to go and see if I have any questions. Oh no. Did it? Okay, looks like it kicked me off of Facebook Live. So anyway, I'll post this up. I recorded it, so we're good. But you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you soon.